Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is April 2nd, 2026, and it is 5:30 p.m. I will have the prayer on Tuesday night, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be with Vice Mayor No. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the February 26th, 2026 special meeting, the workshop that same night, and the March 3rd regular meeting. On Tuesday, we will have the departmental reports. Then we'll have old business, which is second reading, ordinance 2026-05, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2025-2026 general fund budget. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to the consent agenda, we've got approve or reject city bids and purchases. First item is going to be ratify Omnia contract purchase, new city firewall. This is ratification of purchase for the new firewall for the city. Does anyone have any questions on that? Number 2 is ratify emergency purchase roof repairs for Fire Station 42. This is one where we were notified that the roof is leaking in the living quarters, so basically staff hopped on that. The total quote for this is $24,400. Does anyone have any questions? Number 3, ratify Omnia contract purchase, new virtual host servers for the city. Again, this is just getting back to getting the whole system back up. Does anyone have any questions? Next, we have 4, ratify Omnia contract purchase, new file servers for the city. And again, this is all tied to the infrastructure there with IT. Does anyone have any questions? Ratify purchase redundant HVAC unit for the police department data center. And this one is just like it sounds. It is essentially $6,900, and it was for their air conditioning system. So, does anyone have any questions? Number 6, ratify Omnia contract purchase network equipment for the library. And again, this is getting their system back up with it. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 7, ratify purchase, migrate city telephones to cloud hosted solution. And again, this is to move the city telephones to an iCloud hosted solution with Magic Apple technology. Does anyone have any questions? Number 8, ratify Omnia contract purchase, new domain controllers for the city. And this is the same thing. It's purchasing 2 domain controller servers for redundancy. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to B, approve annual renewal of the SMARSH service agreement for archiving city services or city emails, text messages. Does anyone have any questions on this? This is a service we've been using. Moving on to C, approve amendment number 1 to the agreement for engineering services with CTI engineers for the design and construction of a replacement for the Walnut Ridge low pressure sewer system. Essentially, with the Waldron Road widening, some of the septic systems for that area are going to be impacted. So we're working on a solution with this to tie them in with city sewer. And then at the same time, we've had some residents reach out about wanting to tie in as well. So the total addition for this to the overall big project, big picture is $16,500. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to D, approve amendment number 1 to the engineering agreement for engineering services with CTI Inc. Bain Drive Water and Sewer Relocation Project. This is a long time coming. This is tied to Project Bear, which was IC moving in, and the state has changed a few things with its agreement, and it is essentially having an increase in our cost for it at $14,560. And this will see, essentially, when completed, Bain will be widened to assist with all the traffic that goes through there from that new development, or not so new now, but from that development. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to E, approve scope of work and professional services agreement with Get Rescue 911 for police department dispatch and staffing services. We've been working with groups as far as contract support, and so this is continuing on. This is for 2 contract communication specialists for a 26-week period. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to F, authorize the mayor to execute a combined subdivision participation and release form to participate in the 6 remnant defendants' opioid settlement. This is another opioid settlement that we've had multiple ones of those go through. This is where the state and local governments are basically holding a lot of the groups with opioid abuse responsible, and so this is allowing us to participate with that settlement agreement. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to G, approve a proposal from Simple Grants to develop a comprehensive grant strategy for the city of Laverne. This is an outside grant writing group that Bruce has been looking into, and to assist the city with different grant projects, whether it's federal, state, local, or even private ones. The cost for this is $1,500 a month with a 6-month initial term, and the first 3 months are paid up front. Does anyone have any questions?
This is what you emailed me about, Bruce.
I believe so, yes, sir.
So, because I had emailed Bruce about we need to start talking about getting a grant writer, and he told me about this. So we pay this company $1,500 a month, and they.
This is just for the initial term to come up with a grant strategy for the city. Writing grants or maintaining grants or anything like that would be extra, and it's dependent on each individual grant, because some grants are going to be really simple and easy to submit, won't take a lot of time. Some grants, especially your federal grants, are going to be very complicated and require a lot more time to submit, so those would be more costly. But this initial is to come up with a strategy for us to plan out when we need to apply for grants, see what grants would be good for us to apply for, and then go from there.
Do a lot of cities offer this instead of having their own grant writer like we used to?
I think it depends on the size of the city and how busy they are. So it's kind of hard to find one person that can do all of the different duties of a grant writer and keep them busy all the time. So we're hoping that using a specialized company like this that has a staff of multiple people with expertise in different areas will help us be more successful in getting future grants.
So it's $1,500 the initial cost
Per month.
per month,
For 6 months.
and that there's no other charge.
Not for this initial term. Now, if we start asking them to write grants for us or manage grants for us, then there would be additional costs, but it's dependent on those individual grants, whichever ones we decide to apply for.
I think we need to get started with some grants. I feel like we're losing a lot of money, a lot of good stuff.
some of the departments are working on grants on their own.
And I get that, and I totally understand it. I know David and them are always, but, they got enough on their plate.
Yeah.
Same with fire and police, yeah.
And
Yeah.
with some of the big grants, it just, quite frankly, we would need help.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about a couple of the federal grants that Senator Blackburn has reached out to me about. So, that takes time and effort and money.
Correct.
Any other questions? Moving on to H, approve amendment number 2 to the grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance for the provision of grant funds for tuition assistance, training, and professional expenses for the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, Toledo. This is just an amendment, and it's in regards to invoice requirements and communications. There's not a cost to this, but it's updating that, and this is the same amendment that's going out to all the other municipalities that are participating with it. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to I, approve a grant agreement with Shapira Foundation, a.k.a. the Hug Patrol. And so this is Deputy Chief Hatcher's favorite group. This is a group that does stuffed animal donations to the police department that officers can use to comfort children facing trauma or stressful situations. There's no cost to this from the city. There's no matching. It's just essentially a bunch of bears. Does anyone have any questions on that? Moving on to J, approve change order number 7 with Barron Construction, LLC for the Public Works and Community Development Services facility. And this is a total decrease. It's $832.59. Does anyone have any questions on that?
We like decreases.
We do, and there are more to come.
Woo, good job.
So K, approve change order number 4 with CTI for the Upper Cheney Woods Interceptor Sewer Project. This is the final change order. Gary, you're coming up, so I take it you want to take this one.
Volunteering. Don't get used to it. Apologies from staff. This was titled incorrectly. It is actually a change order with Mofield Brothers Construction, not CTI.
You don't want to go through the rest. You volunteered for tribute.
I'd be happy to. Kyle has been involved with negotiations with Mofield Brothers, working with CTI, our wastewater consultant, and the final was a decrease of $54,744.64. Any further questions?
Again, another decrease. Moving on to L, terminate the agreement for engineering services with CTI Engineers for the North Clayton Interceptor Sewer Project. This is essentially just terminating an agreement with them just due to the amount of projects that we already have working through them and possibly seeking another engineering group.
Okay. And on behalf of staff, just wanted to say this is not a termination for cause in any way. We don't anticipate it. We don't want it to be negative towards CTI. It's just simply a matter of reviewing the workload.
Any questions? Moving on to M, approve agreement with American Municipal Services Corporation to provide account resolution and collection services for delinquent court fines and fees. Essentially, the collection agency that the city uses currently for courts is going out of business, and this is another group that Dalvis has located, and we've been able to contact and have some conversations with. Does anyone have any questions?
Is the fee structure basically the same?
The way that they make their compensation is through a 35% collection fee on the amounts that are collected. So this fee will be passed on to whoever is the person that they're contacting. So we're not paying that. The individual is who's delinquent. Any other questions? Moving on to N, ratify approval of a quote from Motorola Solutions for Police Department Flex Records Service. This is in relation to their CAD RMS system. It's inspection, reactivation, and recovery, and the total cost is $20,108.60. Does anyone have any questions on that? Moving on to O, ratify approval of a representation agreement with Bassberry Sims for representation in connection with economic development matters. This is in regards to the IDD that we will be discussing a little bit later in the meeting. But does anyone have any questions on this? Moving on to P, approve change order number 1 with Avenue Grade, DBA Barlow, Inc. for Waldron Road Sewer Assessment Zone. And this is a change order that will decrease the project bid for this by $192,245.63.
We like that.
I like that.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, moving on to new business. First reading ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 28 parcels 2 and 1.01. Property consists of approximately 13.17 acres. Property located on Sanford Road. Current zoning is agricultural zoning district. The proposed zoning is PDR with an R3 base, planned density residential with high density base. This has received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on February 24th, 2026, and we will have a public hearing on this Tuesday at 5:45. Does anyone have any questions?
Refresh my memory, what can be built on agricultural
One house and a barn.
per acre?
I think is that per lot, Bo, or is that per acre?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board. It's our minimum lot size for ag is 1 acre, and so you can have one dwelling on basically if the whole parcel is, say, 10 acres, you can only have one dwelling on it, one house. So in order to get higher density, you'd have to subdivide or rezone and then subdivide.
So a piece of property like this, they could rezone it from agricultural to R1.
They could.
Build a house and a half or ever.
R1's one house per 15,000 square feet. So a third of an acre lots.
Okay, thank you, Bo. So here's my looking at this. My opinion, it takes 3 votes to pass, 3 votes to fail. Planning Commission works their butt off. I admire what work you all do because there's not a lot of good infrastructure going out there in that area. 65 houses out in that area. I don't see it's going to make any kind of beneficial change to the city of Laverne financially with impact fees or otherwise. I just think it's too much out there. That's just my opinion.
And what's being proposed with this PDR, just so that everyone's aware, are single-family homes, not townhomes or apartments for this project. And there is a connector with Sanders Drive over to Cheney.
Yeah, I mean, I read it. I think it said 65 homes. I get it. I understand it. But I think, in my opinion, right now, changing it to an R3, putting 65 more homes in that condensed area out there is just, it's not my cup of tea. But like, again, it takes 3 to pass, 3 to fail. So that's just my opinion.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just want to just comment on this. When the applicant first came in, he only had the one access point onto Cheney, and the planning board was basically vehemently against that. They wanted access on 2 points. So the developer went back and purchased the upper portion and has now added the additional road in, so there is 2 access points into the subdivision. So that was a big part of the discussion that was put forward.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about this?
Is there going to be any widening of Cheney as part of this, or just?
I don't think that was required with traffic study.
What the city's done at this point for the zoning is we have reserved the right, as we get into the site plan and subdivision processes, to possibly have off-site roadway, water, and sewer improvements. But they have not been detailed yet.
So the answer is no.
No, sir. The answer is more likely yes, there will be some form of improvements, but I cannot talk to you about how big they'll be. Okay.
To be determined.
Yeah.
Sir?
Basically, to be determined.
To be determined, correct. But the city has reserved our rights.
Any other questions, comments on this? Okay. Moving on to number 7. First reading ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance to amend City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map of for tax map 32, parcel 3, 3.03, 3.04, 3.05, and tax map 29, parcels 36, 37, 41.01, and 41.02. Property consists of approximately 101 acres. Property located on and near Waldron Road and Blair Road. Current zoning, R1 low-density residential zoning. Proposed is PDR R3, planned density residential with high-density base. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on February 24th, 2026, and a public hearing will be held on Tuesday at 5:45 on this. And this is Twinning Station, and this is essentially adding multiple other lots onto it, including an area for 55 plus and I believe it was a life portion, but I believe land is here if you want to come up and speak to any of this.
This is Land Elliott Equitable Property Company, Nashville, Tennessee, 37209. I'm here to answer any questions that we've been meeting with y'all for a few years now. Just any questions that the Board of Aldermen has or any of the staff have about what we're proposing. I'm here to answer them.
I have 2 things that weren't listed in the packet that I would like to see added to this project, if you're agreeable.
Okay.
The first thing is would be to commit to preserving the mature tree line as a barrier between the Ridge property and what you're proposing. I know that's been a major concern with people in that neighborhood, that they've got existing mature trees that are right there at that property line, and they're really concerned about keeping that foliage there.
Okay.
Is that something you'd be willing to?
We can look at it. There's a bunch of topography going on up there because, as you know, that's sort of the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And so I just, without kind of getting into the idea, I'm in agreement with, but I need to functionally understand how that would work, because we're going to have a relatively tall retaining wall on the backside of that property with the civil work that we're doing. So I just need to understand how that impacts that.
Yeah.
So currently we have a walking trail and a buffer designed and that kind of thing in there. So we have a landscape buffer that's required by the PDR. So I just need to understand what we're what we're really talking about.
Sure. Would you be willing to commit to maintaining that tree line wherever it's convenient? I don't want to
Yes.
say convenient. That's a poor term to use. But
Yes.
where it could be preserved, I understand there might be some construction issues and.
Yeah, I think we can. Yes, the answer to that is yes. I don't want to tear. I don't want to take
'Cause
out
I'm thinking
trees
more
that we don't need to
specifically
take
on
out.
the 55-plus side, it might be more appropriate to keep that barrier more so than further down the line where there's commercial properties and other logistics, parking, things like that, where it needs
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
considered,
down
but-
on that southern end, I think it'd be easier for us to kind of do a study and try to figure out and maybe we could substitute the natural barrier buffer for the landscape buffer that we've agreed to. So I think I'm totally open to it where it makes sense. And
I know a lot of those residents are counting on that mature tree line to kind of help preserve from light pollution from it. So that was a big topic of discussion for the neighborhood.
okay.
The second thing I have here is I would like to see some kind of commitment to the potential funding of traffic calming devices like speed cushions or speed bumps on Dobson Knob Trail, knowing the impact that this is going to have on traffic as far as the neighborhood goes, if the city deems it appropriate.
I'm open to that conversation. I don't know enough detail about it, but I would be happy to meet with you and let's talk about how we can implement that.
Sure.
Yeah, I know what I think when you go crest over the hill and the roads all connect, that makes sense to me. Coming down into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
You looking after us old folks, ain't you?
Doing the best I can.
Just for
Makes sense.
Thank you.
being familiar with the project, if you look at page 246, that shows the buffer line that's proposed, although this is a conceptual, but it does show gives you an idea of the depth that's going to be there from the existing homes and then the existing buffer and the 55 plus. So it does identify that. Also, the developer is required by his own regulations to have the minimum buffer so that he will not be allowed to take all the trees down because that would be against our rules and regulations. And the Planning Commission will address that. It's been a hot topic as far as buffer zones and beautification. So we'll keep an eye on that as well to make sure that the developer does as he said he's going to do.
And typically through Planning Commission, I'm a regular for asking different groups that come through because Katie makes sure it's an ask that I typically will ask for more landscaping, more trees, more bushes on top of whatever they submit, just because I like them.
Most of the, as you look at that development, there's a substantial buffer. Then there's going to be a retaining wall, and then there's a pretty large parking lot that, from a light pollution standpoint, that I think they'll be in good shape because there's a pretty big distance from the buffer line to the back of these buildings, with the only lights being lights that are lighted for the parking lot for public safety. So
Even from a privacy standpoint.
I think it's going to be pretty private. It's just going to sit down, but like those houses are down here, the hill crests here, retaining area, and then there's, I don't know the exact footage off the top of my head. At one point I did, but there's a pretty large parking field between that buffer line and those houses as well. So I don't think they're going to see any of the buildings. I don't think the light's going to be a big issue just because of the
It also
distance.
shades a lot of their backyards. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Everybody
I get
lives.
it from a
Everybody
resident
lives in those
standpoint, right?
backyards on
Yeah.
that street. You know,
So-
they're pretty nice. The way they.
Gary, if you don't mind, can you come up here for a moment? With this, with the lighting in the parking and along the streets, it's still going to be the same as the same type of street light that we use, correct? Would it be the ones that are pointed down towards the ground versus the halogen lights where they pretty much go everywhere?
They have to submit a photometric plan to us, and they will submit the type of lighting they're going to use. It will be pole lighting, and it will be generally box-type lighting pointed down. In the planning commission process, as Alderman Coates was referring to, we probably will ask for a profile through there, a section showing the height of those lights versus the back doors, just to confirm that no one's looking right out at a light.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to number 8, Resolution 2026-11, resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. We've just got a couple items from the Police Department and Public Works, and that will basically, some of it will be scrapped, some of it will go on Gov Deals. Does anyone have any questions? Number 9, Resolution 2026-12, a resolution to approve a land acquisition policy for additional real property interests needed for the South Walton Road widening project. This is just another section with some additional properties. You can see the individuals and their addresses listed there and the amounts. The total for this is adds $660,990. Does anyone have any questions? Next, we have appoint or remove board and committee members, and we've got the Emergency Communications Division Consolidation Steering Committee, which is a committee whenever we agreed to do the just exploratory on a unified dispatch that was in there as a committee to drive that. And we've got down to appoint Deputy Chief Brent Hatcher and our Emergency Communications Manager, Aaron Speck, to that. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Next, we're moving on to discussion, industrial development districts, and I will welcome up Miss Betsy Knotts.
And do you have the clicker? Who's your?
Glenn?
Okay, so I'll just say next slide. That's fine. And first things first, we're talking about infrastructure development districts. So I know we're used to saying industrial development boards, IDBs, and now we're saying IDDs. And so let's learn the term. It's infrastructure development district. So I'm here tonight. I've been engaged by the city to represent the city. You have received your first petition for creation of an infrastructure development district. And so tonight I just kind of want to give you sort of a basic understanding of what that is, so that when you review this petition and you have the public hearing come May 7th, you have a good idea of what you're doing. All right, so next slide, please. So I'm keeping it very high level. We're going to talk about what, why, and how. So what is an IDD? Why would a city create one of these? And how are these assessment revenues that are charged within the district, how are those revenues used to pay for infrastructure costs? Next slide. So what is an IDD? So this is a new law in Tennessee, and it's a new tool. And in very basic terms, it's essentially an area of land with specific boundaries in which a development is planned. It could be residential, it could be commercial, it could be a mixed-use development. But in order for that development to occur, infrastructure needs to be installed. And so within that district, this law allows for a certain fee to be charged to pay for that infrastructure. And we'll go over that in a little more detail. These districts can only be created by what's called a host municipality. And so I included the statutory definition there. So the petition that the city received yesterday is for a development that is located entirely within the city of Laverne. And because of that, the host municipality is the city. Now, if it wasn't, if it was located in the county, then the county would be the host municipality. So something to keep in mind. You'll hear the term host municipality fairly often when reviewing these. Next slide, please. So what is this assessment? What is this new revenue stream that we're going to create in this district? It's pretty straightforward on the slide. It's an annual charge It's essentially a fee. It's not a property tax. It's imposed on every property owner within that area that's receiving a benefit from these infrastructure, from the infrastructure that's installed. It is in addition to property taxes, so it would be included on the property tax bill. So you have your property tax as well as a special assessment charge. And like I said before, it's used to fund infrastructure costs, and then it's included on the bill. So next slide, please. One thing I think is important to keep in mind, because people can start talking kind of loosely about this and calling it a tax, and so we do need to distinguish between an assessment and a property tax. So an assessment that's levied in a district is going to directly benefit the property owners in that area. That's the whole point of it. Whereas a property tax is levied across an entire jurisdiction and can be used for general government purposes. So it doesn't necessarily benefit you directly, but it benefits the entire jurisdiction. And so I just put some information on this slide sort of comparing and contrasting assessment and property taxes. Next slide, please. This is the definition of eligible infrastructure under this new law. There's nothing fancy here. These are the types of costs that can be funded with these assessment revenues. So streets, roads, bridges, sidewalks, water, wastewater, natural gas, electric, telecommunications, parking, stormwater facilities. There can also be land that is later dedicated to the public municipality that can be funded with these assessment revenues. Next slide, please. So the basic steps to create one of these is a petition from the developer and any other property owners in the district. And that is what the city received, I believe, yesterday. And in that petition, you're going to see the boundaries of the district. You're going to see the projected cost of infrastructure. And particularly in this petition, they included the cost of infrastructure for the entire development. And then they kind of zoomed in and talked about just the portion that they want to fund with special assessment revenues, which is not the entire amount of infrastructure needed. They're going to talk about the assessment rate, and in this petition, I believe it's at up to $1,750 per house annually over a 30-year period. And that's a max that they're projecting. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what the assessment rate would be. And so now that you have this petition, the law gives you 30 to 45 days to review it and then hold a public hearing. And so we've scheduled hopefully May 7th to be that public hearing date, because that's about 36 days from now. And so our next step as attorneys working on this will be to put notice out on the website that kind of summarizes what's going on here, and then obviously hold that public hearing on May 7th and get input from the public. And then at that public hearing, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, you guys can decide to approve the district, not approve the district, make some changes to it, but a decision has to be made at that meeting. Next slide. So why would any city create one of these districts? And so I just tried to gather a few bullet points to help that discussion. There's tons of different reasons why. But the main one I think here is accelerating necessary infrastructure in fast-growing area. So my understanding of this development, and the developer's here and can speak for himself, but my understanding is there's a significant amount of off-site sewer improvements that are being put in, and the special assessments would only be used to fund the portion that benefits the district directly. And my understanding from looking at the engineer's report, that's about 50%. So only 50% of the off-site sewer improvements will be funded from special assessments if this is approved. But the developer is still putting in the other 50%, which benefits more than just that development. And so that is accelerating an infrastructure improvement that the city benefits from as a whole that you wouldn't get otherwise if you didn't do the district. One thing that's kind of interesting about Tennessee law, so these districts, you'll know, they exist in Florida, they exist in Texas, they exist in Colorado. California, Utah, a lot of states. There's a pretty strong history, and it's new to Tennessee. Well, Tennessee did not write the law so that each of these districts has a governing body. It literally is a development district for 30 years with a revenue stream, and then it all goes away. So it's used to put the infrastructure in and then go away. It's not, you hear some people say tiny town. It's not a tiny town. There's no board. It's not a little miniature city in the middle of Laverne. So that's one distinction. That's the limited duration. It's governed by the host municipality. And then if bonds are issued to finance these infrastructure costs, they're secured solely by these revenues of the district. And so it's not a municipal financial obligation. Next slide, please. So how do you use these revenues? I kind of alluded to it already. Most of the time, you issue bonds, and you secure them with the special assessment revenues. And the bonds proceeds are used to fund the infrastructure up front. And then the special assessment revenues, as they come in annually, are used to pay off the bonds. One thing I noted on here, I'm a bond attorney by trade, and so we recommend to all of our municipal clients that these types of bonds be issued through an on behalf of entity, so an industrial development board or a public building authority. The law allows that, so that it's not tied to your name if there ever is an issue. Yes, that's next slide, please. Oops. And one thing to keep in mind with these districts, like I said, they can live for 30 or more years, depending, like if there's phasing and it's a large district, it might be 30 years per phase. And so it could go out 35, 40 years. And there is an ongoing assessment responsibility, and the city will be involved in some of it. Now, a lot of it can be delegated to a third-party administrator so that they put the assessment roll together. The assessment is included on the property tax bill, so we have to make sure, I guess it's the county trustee that prints the bills, that he's able to do that. If he's not, we can actually use some of the assessment revenues to pay for software upgrades that might be needed to include that on the tax bill. Because we do think the best way is to include it on the tax bill if you are going to do one of these districts, because the property owners are more likely to pay it if it's on the tax bill. Enforcement, so if there is a foreclosure, that would still be on the city to figure out, utilizing your normal delinquent tax proceeding. I'm not sure exactly how you handle it here, but you would still be asked to do that. I don't think it's an additional work for the city, because most of the time the folks that aren't paying their property taxes already, they're not going to pay the special assessment. And then debt-related obligations. I know your financial advisor is here, Ashley McAnulty. There will be continuing disclosure requirements and just debt administration in general related to the bonds. And so that's something to keep in mind. And again, special assessment statutes allow the assessment revenues to include administrative expenses so that it doesn't hit your general fund. And that's it. I'm happy to answer some questions. I wanted to try to keep it high level so we're not getting too in the weeds.
Any questions? Wow, talkative group tonight.
That's a lot.
It was a lot.
I mean, we don't have this in any other part of town, correct?
No, these are brand new to Tennessee.
Yes.
So, where is there's another municipality already working with these?
Franklin, I believe.
Gallatin has done one, Bristol, Knox County, and then I believe a small town in West Tennessee has also created a district.
And it was Franklin I was thinking of.
Yeah, and Franklin's. Yeah.
So they're starting up, but we're eventually start seeing them. So seeing more of them. Any questions though?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now moving on to number 12, discussion petition to establish the Waldron Road Infrastructure Development District, Meritage Homes of Tennessee Incorporated, and MI Homes of Nashville, LLC.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. Dave Pierce with BRS Development. As you are aware, we've been working together with Kyle and Scott Tavlovich for quite some time putting this together. It has been quite an undertaking to get to this point. We do have final approval from TDEC on it, so we are ready to go. It's out for bid. As we all are aware of the growth here and what has happened, and we are obviously everyone is behind on the infrastructure development cost and how much it actually costs to develop. So this this proposal that we have basically is to fund this and get started right away. And so I can't agree more with what Betsy has already explained about it. I think if there's additional questions that you have specifically of how it actually works and the mechanics, we can talk about that, and I can bring up who some of the people that we have behind here that are going to be operating and managing this along the way after it is actually completed. So we can talk in greater detail about that if you'd like.
Can you speak to the what's on the screen as far as the improvements, or with Gary, I don't know if you're able to speak to that.
Well, it's a pretty complex sewer upgrade, because we've got not just the upgrade of the pipe size, but we have borings all within the right of way. So there's no acquisition that needed to be made. So we're replacing the current pipe that's there. We do have several bores that we have to do so that we're not disrupting traffic. We are going to do an open cut across Waldron Road with traffic controls. But what has actually happened is that this project started much smaller, and it has grown into a much larger project because of the upgrades that were necessary, not just from the pipe upsizing, but we're replacing pumps that are in the station itself to upgrade. So that's kind of how we've gone to an approximate $8 million in cost. So, and you can see that on the budgets that have actually been put together there by the engineers.
And then whenever you're talking about which homes these will affect, can you go into that?
These will affect Mission Hills and Woodland Hills. That is a total of 335 single-family lots.
Now, when you say Woodland Hills, you're talking about the new phase, the existing phase?
The new phase that MI is doing.
Okay. So the existing, just to make sure that this squashes any concerns from residents, the existing homes that are in Woodland Hills are not part of this?
No, only the new part. And that section, I don't know if they have the actual area, but the district is basically set in a surveyed, platted area of the lots. So that's what has created the district.
Yeah.
It's going to be in that geographical area.
Yeah, it lists parcel numbers, but parcel numbers aren't.
Yeah,
declared.
it's a legal document. It's a legal survey that's completed.
Okay.
Boundary and all of that.
Will it include the with Mission Hills? There's homes that are already built and constructed.
They will not.
Okay.
They will not include those. Those have already been sold, and they will not be included on those.
Okay. Any other questions? Again, talkative bunch tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to...
I do have one question. What if we don't do this?
What if we don't do this? Then the option would be we would pay for any of the upgrades.
Sure stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with this in Florida because it's called a CDD, Community Development District there, and it's been around for about 25 years. And it is a very useful tool for infrastructure because what you end up getting is a much better quality development because of it, and it's upsizing. So you're getting, your whole. I mean, I've been here long enough to know that. How many sewer problems that not just you have, but everybody has around here. And this is a major tool that is going to be used to fix that. And it's for your benefit. You're getting it. I mean, it's going to be, it's your sewer and your pumps. So that, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderwoman Hobbs.
Nothing for this evening.
Alderman Coates.
Nothing this evening.
Alderwoman Haas.
Great job on the Easter drive-through. Very organized. Continue on. Neighboring city had issues with their egg hunt, so we will. Kudos to you all. And happy Easter, everyone.
Vice Mayor, no.
Got nothing.
Just want to tell everyone happy Easter. Meeting adjourned.